My mother has told me about Christmas in the time of the Great Depression of the 1930s, when a single orange or a piece of candy in a stocking made the difference between having and not having Christmas. The other day on the radio news, I heard a lady cry after waiting in the cold line outside of Honest Ed Burvish's store for many hours, because she'd been one of the fortunate. She had received a free turkey and fruitcake, and now she could have Christmas. Christmas remains the most widely known, yet least understood special day of the year. It is a religious occasion which celebrates the birth of the baby Jesus, and a holiday which honors Santa Claus and Kris Kringle, Father Christmas, and the idea of peace on earth and goodwill toward man. In the last 100 years or more, the day has become so transformed as to be almost unrecognizable by the brave souls who built this humble shelter in which we have gathered tonight. Were they wiser than we? Were they more virtuous? Were they more brave? A single answer is not an easy task. They were closer to the truth. Except by their own labor, they were cold and hungry. Except by their own deeds, they were destitute and beyond hope. Except by their own dreams, they were exiles in an unforgiving and often hostile environment. They were closer to the truth than we are now. When my children were small, we used to come to Black Creek Pioneer Village and make our picnic on the tables provided nearby after touring the buildings here. My wife would become impatient with me sometimes because I would lag behind. I remember sitting inside near the door of the blacksmith shop, positioning myself in such a way that my field of vision would not be intruded by the sight of high-rise buildings and hydro wires. I was looking for the peace and quiet. I was trying to heal my spirit. Watching the smithy work with his bellows and his tongs, seeing the humble artifact he was crafting take shape before my eyes, seemed a kind of visual poetry, which conferred something blessed and prayer-like on the summer afternoon. In the quiet repose of a little kitchen, a lady in an old-fashioned dress was sewing in a rocking chair, with the sun streaming through the screen door and the birds chirping nearby. Everywhere I looked, unless the reminders of here and now intruded, there was peace and purpose in honest labor. Was I suddenly wiser? Was I suddenly more virtuous? No. I was simply closer to the truth. The smell of it was in the air, and the aroma of fresh-baked cookies and bread, and the apple wood burning in the hearths, and the herbs and spices. The dried apples hung from the rafters, and then the tallow melting in the pan. It could be tasted, touched, seen, heard, and felt. Indeed, it could be experienced. In the days when the buildings of this village were still young, when ordinary people were closer to the truth, special days of the year were more easily understood. The time of harvest was imbued with sacred meaning because it signaled the reward and bounty of honest labor and of faith. Thanksgiving Day was a very clear and meaningful gesture of gratitude to God and nature. Easter heralded the coming of spring and the resurrection and new life and the imminent time of plowing and planting. But for we who live in the modern world, Christmas remains the most challenging special time of the year because of a mysterious something which by its presence or its absence leaves us fulfilled or wanting. To name it is simple. To define and adequately describe it is perhaps impossible. The richest tree, the grandest house and table, a king's ransom in presence, all these are impoverished in the absence of the spirit of Christmas. It cannot be bought, or traded, or sold. It cannot be given or taken. It can only be found in the knowledge of the simple truth that all we ever have is each other. "I'll be home for Christmas," go the words of a popular song, "if only in my dreams." It was written during the days of the Second World War, when young boys and men and women in uniform were separated from their families and loved ones by the insanity of war. There are stories told of the voices of rival soldiers singing carols in their native languages, while the guns and cannons preserved silence. A branch, a twig, a candle for a Christmas tree, and rival armies, each with its own precondition for peace. For the blessed span of a night and a day, an idea based upon an old simple truth lived again. The story of the babe born in Bethlehem, for whom there was no room at the inn, is so rich in meaning and metaphor that its implications remain as elusive now as they were in the time of its setting. In our modern world there are those who argue the divine birth, unmindful that every birth is divine, and that no event in human history parallels or rivals the birth of a single child, any child. The spirit of Christmas, that singular essence without which there can be no real Christmas, is profoundly linked to the idea of the child, the mother, the father, the shelter, and the warmth of the family. Woven within the threads of the story there is the message of charity and kindness, of faith, courage, and humility. The setting is divinely inspired. What shelter could be more pure, more honest than among the gentle animals and the sweet hay of the manger? It has been said that when the lights go out, civilization recedes 1,000 years. Like so much of our language, the words are misleading, and the idea is false. The simple truth is that it is technology which recedes 1,000 years when the lights go out, not civilization. Civilization has more to do with the spirit than with gadgets and machines. Read your daily newspaper and see how very uncivilized our present civilization has become. The people who made this place with their hands and simple tools were not wiser or braver than any of us here tonight. They were simply closer to the truth. They made a life for themselves in the wilderness, under conditions which we today would find almost beyond belief. And in so doing, they must have honored many a Christmas with the most meager of material goods. It is a romantic idea, to be sure, but in the simple lamplight which illuminates this setting tonight, I am tempted to believe that we are closer to the truth, that if we could be quiet long enough, we could almost hear their voices and speak to them. I wonder what their advice to us might be about the spirit of Christmas. I wonder if they would merely remind us of what we already know. I wonder if they would say, as a mother or a father might say to a child, "It's where it always was, in your heart. Look there to find Christmas. If it isn't there, then it must be that you've closed your heart. Well, open it," they might say. Let the spirit of Christmas enter and abide with you. And remember to honor it not only on Christmas Day, but all the days of your life.